To another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Now, there's a couple things that happen all the time, and one of the things that happens all the time is sometimes I just have too many video topics on my brain at one point. So in today's video, I'm just going to try to push out like a bunch of different topics that have been bothering me. Maybe each one of those topics isn't enough to have its own video, but the amount of things I want to talk about versus like the amount of time I have it's not even comparable at all. So I titled this video very important. Something's happening here, but it ain't exactly clear. Yeah, just like that song. But I'm looking at the entire market, and there's so many little things happening at one point, and I don't know if they're all connected or not. But in Pokemon right now, the high end of this hobby is going crazy. And you don't need to go much further to look than like the Extra Battle Day Lily. How much that card is selling for. It had a couple seals greater than $100,000. How quickly that card has exponentially increased in price. And like that's the high end. But then also you look at a lot of the recent sales of modern cards. And you look at what are the highest performing modern cards. They're not the PSA 10s, they're not the CGCs, they're the Beckett Black Labels. And Beckett Black Labels, listen, I'm never a buyer of Beckett Black Labels ever. I will be a grader hopefully soon of Beckett Black Labels, but I will never be the buyer. And the buyer of those cards is on a very high end of this hobby. And what I mean by that on the high end of the hobby is somebody that will buy a $20 card in a black label, but because it's in a black label, they'll pay $300 for it. That is a very different group of this hobby. So anybody buying black labels, I consider them buying on the highest end because otherwise it doesn't make sense, and especially when you look at the cards that are catching these black label premiums. Shout out to Dan Catchmall Collectibles. Dan is doing the black label play on like the Scarlet and Violet 001 promos. That is a $5 card in Chinese. That is a $20 card in Japanese, and it's a $300+ in a black label. Where in PSA, maybe that's a $60 PSA 10. So there's a huge difference. So that's the high end. But then on the low end, I think just super modern, in the day, like Scarlet and Violet base booster boxes, Paldea Evolve booster boxes, what we're starting to see happen with Obsidian Flames, and it hasn't even been released. And what are we seeing? Like relatively low prices for booster box in the very recent memory. And what I mean by recent memory is in this modern boom of Pokemon since 2020, there was very, very few sets that released and were selling for less than distribution pricing. In Scarlet and Violet base Paldea Evolve, we have already seen prices selling at less than distribution costs. As for Obsidian Flames, it appears that Obsidian Flames, even though it is a Charizard set, even though it appears to be a relatively strong set, you still have like the T-Tar in it. It seems like a solid set. Just people are not gravitating to Obsidian Flames maybe the way a lot of people were hoping they were. This is the thing. None of those sets are bad. It's just they're being a little bit more stagnant in this hobby. And then I think a lot of people are now looking forward to 151. But then you look at it, how is the Japanese 151 doing? Japanese 151 is doing phenomenal right now. Anybody who bought in a booster, I'm just going to say it this way. It was very hard to get Japanese 151 booster boxes for cheap. They were expensive right out the gate. Yes, if you had your Tenso account, you're able to get your one from Pokemon Center Japan. So maybe you were lucky you got it between, like $70 to $80 all in with cost and everything. Even though that's a $40 booster box, you got it for $80. Recent sales of that thing are crazy. How much demand is in for 151? How strong 151 is staying? So you got a lot of people looking forward to English, but I don't know how Obsidian Flames is going to do at release. I think it's probably just will, play out pretty similar to Scarlet and Violet base, pretty similar to Paldea Evolve, but that's the lower end of the hobby. And it's just such a drastic difference between Extra Battle Day Lily selling for $100,000 and then, modern distributors are struggling to sell Paldea Evolved and make any sort of profit after fees and shipping. They're more or less breaking even or sometimes losing money. So just that dichotomy in the same hobby between the spectrum is so drastic. But now you pull yourself out of Pokemon, which is something I don't like to do very often on this channel, but pull yourself out of Pokemon and you look at like, where's the hype in the rest of this hobby? Metazoo? Metazoo is somehow still a company. I'm surprised by that. Shout out to Basic Trainers in the chat. But yeah, I mean, Metazoo is still chugging along. I mean, the new Seance booster box, whatever. I don't even know what the newest. I can't keep up with Metazoo, but those booster boxes selling for like $80, which I guess that's good. I don't really know, but remove yourself out of Metazoo and you look at Disney Lorcana. The hype that is around Disney Lorcana right now, it seems like it's continuing to grow now that we're getting closer to Disney Lorcana release. But now the death of Disney Lorcana. Oh, I just had a tongue twister right there. The death of that is oversupply, and it's simple. And I think Disney's plan is to oversupply Lorcana and just print it into the ground. The problem is, right at release, these real early numbers, shout out to Mason Cardinal Gaiman. Mason Cardinal Gaiman talked about his numbers he got. He requested 200 booster boxes from, I want to say maybe Southern Hobby or one of his distributors. He requested 200 boxes, ended up getting allotted 6 booster boxes. And then they ended up taking back those 6 booster boxes because he wasn't a play store. So they're only sending the booster boxes to stores that are going to have organized play because they really want to get these cards in the hand of players. All the things I just said, all the things that are lining up, that is not good for that game. The amount of demand for it versus the amount of supply that it seems to going to be on the market. If Mason requested 200 boxes and ended up with 0, and I know there's a lot of other distribution people out there trying to get a ton of booster boxes. A lot of people in this chat that have distribution wanted them, can't get them. So I think there's going to be a lot of money there right at the beginning. But we'll see what happens. And then the company printing Disney Lorcana isn't like a trading card game company. They're more of a board game company. So we'll just see how all this rolls out. But it looks like going to be crazy demand. At the beginning, low supply, but this could be the thing about Disney Lorcana. It could be potentially printed for the next 5 years in a row, and they just keep printing it until eventually they can destroy whatever demand exists for this game. Because I have never seen a marketing push from a company to really, really say to people that this will not be like an investable game. This will be a playable game. And that's what they seem to be doing for this new Disney Lorcana. But it just, at the beginning, it's going to take so long. But it's going to be one of those things, if they truly mean that, and they're not just full of shit and just blowing smoke out their ass, if they mean it, that means they're just going to keep printing. It's going to be like base set unlimited all over again, where they're just going to keep printing it for years and years and into multiple sets until eventually they could kill that demand. At least the way they're talking, that's how it sounds. But right at release, Stonk City. I don't know. I'm going to try to get my hands on it. I'm going to try to open up some of it, try to do early grade plays, because I'm not emotionally attached to Disney Lorcana. I'm not emotionally attached to the Disney IP. Don't get me wrong. I like Disney. I like The Lion King and all the movies I grew up with as a kid. But I don't need to own a booster box that could potentially be selling for $300-$400 right off the rip. That's not for me. At least to hold on to it and to put it in a pile with my other booster boxes. But I'll open it up and see if I could do the flip play. Because I do want to take some of the knowledge and some of the experience I use in Pokemon and just move it into things that maybe I don't care as much about. But there's going to be a lot of people trying to do that. And then, so that's one thing. But the next thing is a game that was struggling for a long time was Magic the Gathering. For the last, I'd say solid year, 2 years, Magic the Gathering was really hurting. And all the Magic the Gathering fans, they always talk about Hasbro and talk about Hasbro more or less killing the game and printing everything to oblivion. And then everything you're seeing happen with these Amazon dumps. And what happens with these Amazon dumps is that investor mindset for a lot of these Magic players or Magic investors, they get crushed every time these Amazon dumps come out, because when an Amazon dump comes out, there is usually a long lasting effect of those dumps. So if people were sitting on product, they saw a lot of unrealized gains because they were just sitting on it, waiting for it to continue to appreciate like they were hoping it was gonna. With these Amazon dumps, they lose all that and they more or less start at zero, or they start less than where they bought in. And so, you really kill a lot of the faith that the collector base and investor base in Magic has. But that's kind of like turned around recently in the last set, which is the new Lord of the Rings set. You know, those collector booster boxes, there was a lot of speculations. I had fun with it on this channel, the whole what if. What if those booster boxes, what will they do if the one of one ring gets pulled? What will happen to that booster box price if the one of one ring does get pulled? You know, like, so there was the what if it doesn't and what if it does. And then we saw it get pulled, and it got pulled a little bit earlier than I thought, which I thought was a great thing that actually for Magic, because it got pulled, so it didn't seem like they were artificially holding it back, waiting for other products to put it in, put that, you know, tinfoil fedora type thought process. But yeah, that booster box is now selling between $360 and $400. I saw recent sales today. So $360 to $400, that's still a strong price for those collector booster boxes, when I thought that they were going to be like sub whatever the MSRP prices. But obviously they still have the other rings. You know, it's like humans got 9 rings, the elves got 3 rings, or however that works out. So it's like the 1 out of 3,000, 1 out of 6,000, 1 out of 9,000, something like that. And then obviously the one of one ring, and it's still holding strong. So Magic's doing good. And then I mentioned it, I like put out a little like sprinkle of what it, I talked about. I bought into a Kickstarter TCG, and then I saw some people in the chat, they were speculating that I ended up buying Metazoo Kickstarter, which I didn't buy a Metazoo Kickstarter box. But shout out to Josh, the old card shop. I think he's in the chat. Me and Josh, we did buy into like Sorcery TCG, the alpha. So I got a case, I got 2 of the pre-con decks, and then because I was in the Kickstarter, I got like the Kickstarter, what is it, this pack? The Sorcery Pledge Pack thing, so I got one of these too. And, you know, me and him were talking about Sorcery before it came out, and I was like, you know, I think it's going to do pretty good. It seems like a lot of people are talking about it. Rudy's potentially, like, pumping into this. How quickly that case has gone up in value is preposterous right now. You know, I think, so all in for all this stuff, for the Pledge Packs, for the box, I don't even remember, because it was, like, in, what is it, like New Zealand dollars or something. But most recent sales of a Sorcery, this box right here, most recent sales on eBay at the time of recording this video, $6,000, like for a sealed Sorcery like case. What? $6,000? Who's buying this stuff? Why am I not selling this stuff? That's probably the better question. Why am I not selling? Because I'm getting absolutely greedy, because I'm waiting for Rudy to do all the legwork and just pump this stuff up. I'm not comfortable sitting on this stuff anymore. It's crazy. How much money is just in collectibles right now? Not just collectibles, TCGs. The fact that Magic could be strong, the fact that Metazoo could still be around, the fact that Sorcery could still be around, the fact that Disney Lorcana is going to be stonked out to the moon. And listen, you could say what you want. I don't really agree with like what's going to happen with Disney Lorcana, but I'm not blinded to what it's going to happen. Like, and everybody out there, this isn't your first rodeo. You should know what's going on. And then the high end of Pokemon, like I talked about, the extra Battle Day Lily, $100,000 cards. You know, I looked at recently like some of the more expensive like sold listings. Like just the other day, Rusty sold, shout out to Rusty TCA Game, and I saw on his eBay page, he sold a box of Dragon's Frontiers for $40,000. Yes, you heard that number correctly. Maybe Rusty will let me know after the video or whatever, or maybe you could shoot me a text if that was actually paid for. But a booster box of Dragon Frontiers sold for $40,000. Yes, I get it. You could do the whole ultimate gold star chase, and you could try to go after the gold star Charizard, opposed to like going after the gold star Rayquaza out of Deoxys. So I get it. I'm not shitting on Dragon Frontiers. I love Dragon Frontiers, but $40,000 for a booster box. Holy jeez. That is a lot of money. The high end of the hobby right now, the big money, I'm telling you, $6,000 for a Kickstarter case of booster boxes, for alpha booster boxes, $6,000 right at release, before the beta has come out, before people have pumped into this. The fact that those are already selling for that much money. And then I'm looking at some of like the high-end chase cards. I'm looking at some recent eBay sales for Sorcery. And these cards are selling for 10,000 plus, $10,000 plus dollars for like some of the chase cards. It's like, who's the buyer of this stuff? I'm not the buyer of any of this. I'm telling you right now. I'm not the buyer of extra Battle Day Lilies at $100,000. I'm not the buyer of Sorcery, Alpha booster box cases for $6,000. I'm not the buyer of Dragon Frontiers booster boxes for $40,000. The thing I might be the buyer of, which I'm not even right now, is like Paldea Evolved cases of booster boxes at $550. I might be a buyer of those, so I'm on the lowest end. And the people that are still buying these Lord of the Rings collector booster boxes for between $360 to $400, knowing that ultimate lotto factor of the 1-of-1 rings already being pulled, the fact that there's still sales of that every single day, the fact that Metazoo, like I said, can still somehow be a company, the fact that, shout out the Basic Trainer. Basic Trainer right now, he's in Dallas, Fort Worth area at a Metazoo tournament. So Metazoo's still going strong there. It's crazy. You know how much money it takes to keep all this stuff afloat and to keep it afloat as strong as it is? I'm telling you, something is happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. And I'm telling you, all these thoughts, I could have made a video about every single one of these. Maybe not talk about them like in super in depth, but like the what the hell is going on conversation can definitely be had. I could probably make a 3-hour live just looking at Black Label sales from Beckett in Pokemon and saying, what the hell's going on? This hobby, the buyers, the collectors, the investors, the flippers, I guess you still got scalpers left in this hobby. Like, you'll have the scalpers for Disney Lorcana, 100%. The scalpers are more or less kind of pushed out of Pokemon, but they're still there when the really, really, really good products come out. You'll see it happen. If you don't believe me, good luck trying to go on Target.com and picking up Orbital V-Boxes or Rapidash V-Boxes from Target.com. The scalpers are still there. They're just kind of a little bit more picky now to what they're buying. If you don't know what I mean by Orbital V-Boxes or Rapidash V-Boxes, the Orbital V-Boxes from Target.com had 3 Evolving Skies packs in it and 1 Cosmic Eclipse pack for your 4 packs for like a $17 product. Huge win there. And then the Rapidash boxes had Evolving Skies, and then it either had a Cosmic Eclipse pack in it or a Unified Minds pack. Oh, yeah, it wasn't Unbroken Bonds. It was Unified Minds. So people were buying up those boxes. They sell out instantly, like in a split second. Once Pokemon TCG drops, like would even post a Twitter link, or they would just already be gone. So the scalpers still exist. That's a product, like an example of scalpers still exist in this hobby. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and then I'm looking at some of the real high-end trophy market. These things are few and far between, but you still have your snap cards are catching huge premiums. Some of the non-Pokemon items are still catching big premiums, whether it's like the actual players' trophies or the actual players' trophy cards. So trophy cards and actual physical trophies are 2 different things, just so everybody out there is understanding. But there's still a market for all this stuff. All the Pokemon plushes and the sitting cuties and the smushmallows or whatever the hell they're called, there's still a ton of buying there. This hobby and just collectibles in general is so strong right now. I'm really, really struggling to put my finger right on the pulse of exactly what's going on. And the reason why I say I'm struggling so much is because there's so much going on. And not only is it going on, there's so much speculation going on. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm struggling a little bit to figure out where all this money in this hobby is coming from. And and that's why when I talked about on my most recent video, if you haven't made money in this hobby, what's been going on recently, what you've been surrounded with, especially if you've been actively engaged in 2020, 2021, 2022. I'm not going to go back and harp on the video, my most recent video. But listen, if you have not made money in this hobby right now, today, in this current climate, you may never make money. And that is the most harsh reality you will ever get. You may never make money in this hobby if you can't make money today because of how much it seems like you can touch anything at this point. Anything It doesn't matter. You could close your eyes in this hobby and like point to something and it somehow is a winner. And then so you remove yourself out of the only, like, they're not even poor performing products. They don't have crazy gains right now when you talk about Scarlet and Violet base or Paldea Evolved or potentially Obsidian Flames. But you look at like chase cards, especially when you go back only one generation, an entire generation before Scarlet and Violet, and you look at team up cards. All the team up cards are going crazy. Any Sun and Moon set is catching a huge premium. Like Sun and Moon is doing, actually, Sun and Moon is doing in some cases better than a lot of XY stuff. There's still some XY stuff that's doing really, really good, you know, but Sun and Moon for the most part is outperforming XY, which is crazy to think about. And I know everybody's going to be like, well, what about Flashfire? And what about, you know, like some of the bigger sets in XY? So yeah, like those are still, like your Phantom Forces are still doing better in comparison to some of these Sun and Moon sets when you look at sealed product prices, when you say, okay, Phantom Forces, Flashfire, what are these two sets, or even like XY based stuff like this, the sealed product is still doing a little bit better. But single prices, you can find way more like expensive singles from the Sun and Moon block than you can the XY block. And then even XY is starting to pull itself up. Black and White is a little bit of like, it's like hit or miss. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Timeline, they all do good when they go up for auctions and sale, but the problem is you don't just see a lot of it. Same thing with Diamond and Pearl. Diamond and Pearl does good when it comes up, especially like sealed booster boxes of Diamond and Pearl. It's crazy how much some of these, especially like Mysterious Treasures and stuff like this, booster boxes you just don't see come up all the time, and you see the premiums that these sell for. It's like, wow, that's a lot. And then obviously all these, you know, Watsi sets are still doing great. But then even the Nintendo sets, like I mentioned recently, like within the last week, TCA Gaming sold a box of Dragon Frontiers for $40,000. So, you know, that's a Nintendo set. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just, you look at what about even, and then the better performing sets, you know, you look at Brilliant Stars. Brilliant Stars is gonna start running away soon. Brilliant Stars is just catching its legs. Evolving Skies has already ran away. Evolving Skies is already like in the distance somewheres. Sword and Shield base doing great. Sword and Shield Rebel Clash doing great. Darkness Ablaze is just chugging along. Vivid Voltage is chugging along. Battle Styles, no more reprints of Battle Styles. Battle Styles is chugging along. Chill and Rain, chugging along. You know, Fusion Strike, chugging along. Evolving Skies, chugging along. Brilliant Stars, all these sets are just moving. The only ones that are like not doing great in Sun and or Sword and Shield, which not doing great is subjective because they're still all doing well. You know, your Astro Radiance, and then because we've recently seen a reprint of Lost Origins, because we've recently seen a reprint of Silver Tempest, like these sets are, they're just supply right now in the market. So a lot of the prices for those boxes have retraced. A lot of the bundle deals and stuff, there's tons of people out there talk about this all the time. They're having to get like not build and battle stadiums. What are those boxes? Like the not trainer toolkits, like the boxes, like the trainer boxes, whatever they're called. They're having to like bundle those into booster box buys and stuff. So it's like, in a way, artificially keeping up the price of these Silver Tempest and Lost Origin booster boxes. They're not dropping. There's still buying pressure there. You know, the reprints of Sword and Shield booster boxes are probably going to come to an end relatively soon. And then I think Pokemon is going to just focus on Scarlet and Violet, which again, I've mentioned this in other videos. I think that's a little nerve-wracking because I just don't know if any Scarlet and Violet sets right now will need reprints. And I'm scared to think what a Scarlet and Violet base reprint will look like, or Scarlet and Violet Paldea Evolve reprint, and now Obsidian Flames with relatively lower demand than maybe a lot of people were expecting to see a reprint of. Like this is where we're getting into dangerous speculative territory right now. Think about what I just said. I am now talking about reprints of a set that hasn't been released yet in Obsidian Flames. We're deep into the woods right now, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about potential reprints of a set that hasn't even come out yet officially on paper. Like, we are in the weeds at this point. We are deep. We're far. But I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. And then, like, especially like what I mentioned earlier in today's video, the 151 set. I think a lot of people are speculating hard. People are speculating now, like looking at 151, saying, what are going to be the good products? You know, you have that box that has the playmat and the Charmander Squirtle Bulbasaur, or the 151 UPC, and you got the Mewtwo, and you got the Mew special art in there, and then you got the, you know, the metal cards again in the 151, and then there's a lot. And then even the ETBs, people are speculating on the ETBs. What are people going to want more? The ETBs, are they going to want the 151, you know, UPCs? Because everybody's looking at what happened with the Charizard UPCs. So the Charizard UPCs, I think, scared away a lot of people for that speculative play on, you know, Celebrations 151 UPCs. So, and I mean, it's not the wrong way to look about it, to say, okay, they overprinted Charizard UPCs. Are they going to do the same thing with Celebrations UPCs? And it appears that maybe they will. But do not forget this very, very important fact. Charizard UPCs at release all were positive EV. Assuming, and especially were they positive EV if your promos were worth it to be graded. Now, the caveat in those, a lot of people struggled to get 10s. For my very, very early Charizard UPCs, I graded 34 of those Charizard UPC promos. 20 out of the 34 still did grade 10s. So I didn't have terrible luck. I know some people did have terrible luck. So it could have just been like the batching I got. I'm not really 100% sure on that. They were sealed cases of Charizard UPCs. So if you're going to get good batching, more likely than not, that good batching is going to be in that entire case. Where sometimes you get bad batching, it's higher likelihood that that bad batching is going to be in the entire case, meaning print quality for all those promos are going to be either great throughout or they're going to be shitty throughout. So maybe I just got on the lucky end of that spectrum. But, you know, even those promos, the sealed packs right at release were selling for a decent amount of money. You could still sell the play mats at the time, the metal coins, the dice. Like, I didn't do that stuff. I know a lot of people did. But, you know, the same thing could happen with the UPC. A lot of people talk about Celebrations. They talk about the chase card being that Mew card. So if that Mew card is a lot of people's chases, you have no other option but to buy that 151, you know, UPC. Or if you don't want to pay for that 151 UPC and you still want to complete like an Ultimate Master set, you have to buy that Mew in a 10. Like if you're going the graded route. And especially that Mewtwo. That Mewtwo is a fantastic alternative art. It's just destroying the price of Pokemon Go for the long term, in my opinion. Because the only thing Pokemon Go had going for it, even in the slightest, was that Alt Art Mewtwo that was in Pokemon Go. But now you get that Alt Art Mewtwo in the Celebrations UPC. Like, Pokemon Go is going to be hurting for a while. This is a funny thing about Pokemon Go. There have been some sales of that, which, like, if you can buy into Pokemon Go at packs for sub $2, which I've seen a lot of people fire selling packs at sub $2, like, it doesn't hurt you to pick up a bunch of packs. I'm telling you, like, at $2 a pack, if you have an extra $100 lying around, like, it doesn't hurt to just pick up 50 packs of Pokemon Go loose packs. I'm telling you, like, some of these prices have been that low. Now, that's few and far between, but if you see those, it doesn't hurt to just have a stack of 50 Pokemon Go packs. Or if you got $200 lying around, just have a stack of 100 loose packs of Pokemon Go and just put them away in the corner and just see how something like that plays out, because you're into that for so little bit of money. Now, if you're going to go the other route for Pokemon Go and you're going to go into your local Walmart or Target and you're going to buy an ETB off the shelf for $49.99 or whatever the MSRP for one of those specialty ETBs is currently at Target or Walmart, then you're going to be in for a bad, bad time. You're really going to have pizza when you should have french fried in that situation. So don't make that mistake. Okay. There's a lot. I'm telling you, there's a lot. I talked about like a million different topics, a million different games, and then there's still other like trading card games that are still just chugging away in the background too, like Flesh and Blood. Flesh and Blood is still doing its own thing. It's just I don't really hear people talk about Flesh and Blood anymore, but it's still chugging along in the background. So there's a lot. All right, let's see. going to scroll up to the top of the chat, and I'm going to answer some questions. I'm trying to make this like a shorter live, even though shorter live, I'm shooting for 30 minutes. We're not going to make it to 30 minutes. It's going to be a lot longer. I'm sorry for those people out there that want the shorter videos. I'm struggling. I'm trying. Snookerman says, why does he hold his hands and pray every thumbnail? I've already talked about this before. I have this background now. I have this office chair. In the past, if you go back on some of my older lives, you'll see I'm sitting on my couch in my living room. And because I didn't have a place to place my elbows, I would always place my elbows on my knees and I would rest like this. And I didn't realize I was doing it for a while. So people would put prayer hands in the chat. And if you like Rattle Pokemon always talks about people that put prayer hands in the chat are like J-boys. So because it became a meme, I decided to keep it as a meme. And then now that I don't sit on my couch anymore with my elbows on my knees doing the prayer stance by accident, it is a little bit weird, but sometimes you got to go with it, Go with the meme. Go with the J-boy prayer hands in the chat meme. So everybody throw the prayer hands in the chat right now. XP says, PK, I haven't heard people talk a lot about base set first editions anymore outside of holos. Do you think that the market has settled, or is there still room to grow? What are you talking about? Are you talking about like first edition 10s, or are you talking about just first edition raw cards, or first edition like lower grades? Lower grades for first edition could be like 7, 8, 9s. And 9s kinda. I don't know. Base set first editions are still selling relatively strong, especially like first edition holos, especially when you compare them to any point pre-2020. And really, if you look at a lot of them, like a first edition base set holo that I follow a lot is base set Raichu. Base set Raichu has been selling pretty strong around that $8,000 mark for like the last 2 years. Obviously, there's always like the couple outlier sales in the height of heights and the booms of booms when it hit like $16,000, $17,000, but those prices are stupid. That card shouldn't be worth that much, but I mean, it's still selling at that $8,000 range pretty well. So yeah, I just think a lot of the demand has gone away from first edition base right now, at least in the speculative, like talking about it stuff. And really the channels that talk about the first edition cards were really some of the more hype channels that were really latching on to that Logan Paul hype. There's not really a lot of channels that I could think of off the top of my head that really talk about like first edition cards that much. Because when you think about first edition cards, like Neo Destiny was the last set to have first edition stamps. And the sets I really like to talk about, if you've realized by my channel, very rarely do you hear me talk about base set Jungle, Fossil, base set 2, Team Rocket, any of the Neos, or any of the Gyms, any of the Neos. Really, the sets I talk about, I don't talk about Legendary Collection that much, which Legendary Collection was the first set to not have first edition stamps. But maybe I don't talk about Legendary Collection that much, but I definitely talk about like Expedition, Aquapolis, Skyridge. So the sets, and then I definitely am talking a lot about Nintendo sets. So the sets that I really focus on have never really been the first edition sets. So yeah, when you say people aren't really talking about them anymore, I don't really know who was talking about them to begin with. I guess I'm trying to think. Can you guys name me the channels that were talking about first edition stamp cards? I know some channels like grew out of talking about first edition stamp cards, the non-holos being in a bubble. Like shout out to Dan Catchmole Collectibles and Jake Pokenomics. So the first ever live that Dan Catchmole Collectible went on Jake's stream, before Dan had any sort of channel, before he had any sort of like YouTube footprint. Obviously, he was super active in E4, but he came out of the woodwork and joined that YouTube live stream to just shit on the price of first edition Jungle Pikachus and Eevees. Like that's all he was talking about, of just how absolutely irrational the market was at the time and how crazy those prices were. So that's like one of the few examples I can think of where somebody was talking about non-holo first edition stamps, but they were absolutely trashing on those as the worst potential buy you could do in the bubble. There was probably worse buys you can do, but like that was one of the glaring ones. So yeah, XP. Hope I answered that question for you. Basic said he's currently in Dallas for the 150K tournament tomorrow. Basic, I hope you win that $150,000, my friend. That would be a lot of fun. And Hopefully we're getting Basic Trainer in a chat pretty soon. I messaged Basic Trainer before I went live tonight, and we are working on getting him on because he's the person in this hobby everyone needs. He brings some reason to this hobby, and maybe he could give us a little bit of how is Metazoo still a company rant. I see we got Josh, the old card shop, in the chat. Good to see you. Blasty, shout out to Blasty. We're supposed to get Blasty on a live one of these days. Remember, Blasty, if you're out there still watching this, we shook on it. You are coming on this channel. So if you guys aren't familiar with who Blasty is, Blasty's super active in the Rattle Discord, but more importantly, Blasty is Rattle's cousin. So, you know, Blasty always has the inside scoop, and he has an interesting view on this hobby because while Blasty is super actively engaged in Pokemon because he's in a way forced to be actively engaged. He watches this channel on occasions. He's super active in the Rattle Discord. He's super active in all Rattle's videos, but he doesn't go super hard into Pokemon like the rest of us does. So this perspective and the insights he's able to bring into this hobby is very interesting to talk to Blasty. Like I said, being as actively engaged as he is with like the social part of it and being so inactive with the collecting or the investing or the flipping aspect, he brings like a very, very good perspective. And I can't wait to get Blasty on this channel one day. Sorry, Blasty. Joshio Card Shop said, shout out to the Wrench Gang. Yeah, shout out to the Wrench Gang. #1 mod in the game, obviously, Drew, all the time. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Fresh Tat says, Blast, nice looking out for Rattle in that dating show. So there's not a lot of videos that have been produced lately where I was mesmerized by. And Rattle's it wasn't his most recent video, but one of his more recent videos where he went on like a YouTube live dating app thing where you can go on, you talk to the creator. It was like a whole thing. I didn't even know that channel existed, but it was just the right amount of cringe. It was just there's a lot of cringe that's involved in it. Like a lot would maybe be an understatement. As much cringe as you can throw into one video, but it still was performed so well and it was so engaging. I just had to watch it from the first second it started to the last second it ended. And you felt weird, you got tingles, but it was good. And Rattle did his normal Rattle rants and everything in the middle of it, and yeah, it was good. I hope Rattle does another one of those videos. But Blasty, I guess you like donate money to keep that person on, and Blasty donated enough money to keep Rattle on, so people like couldn't kick him out of the live stream. It was pretty fascinating. People are saying PK recorded this video 4 years ago. Yeah. I wish I recorded this video 4 years ago and was still able to talk about Alpha Sorcery TCG or Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings collector boxes, stuff like this, or Disney Lorcana 4 years ago. Shining Cards and Collectibles says Magic the Gathering doing good? ? I would say recently they're doing pretty good. Yeah, from what I'm seeing, like the market at least still seems stronger than it was like a year or two ago. I could be wrong. Maybe it is just these one-off sets, but we'll see. Magic the Gathering, the same way as Pokemon, the same way as any of these, card games, they control their own destiny. The one thing Magic can do to control their own destiny more than anything else is if Magic the Gathering, like, limits print runs for sets, they could save that entire TCG hardcore. Now, this is the thing. A lot of the Magic the Gathering fans, they don't like to hear that. There's a group of Magic the Gathering fans that will die by the fact that they want every card to be sub 5 cent. They want every card to be like super cheap. They want everything printed into absolute oblivion. But in reality, Magic the Gathering can't survive if that is a fact. So in order for Magic to really survive and for Magic to actually not just survive, but just do fantastic in the long run, is they need to limit print runs. And hopefully Magic could figure out like a good middle ground for that. And I think the problem is Wizard of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, and Rudy's a better channel to talk about stuff like this, but it's they are a profit-driven company, obviously. They're publicly traded. They have stockholders that they have to be held accountable to and stuff like this. So it is hard to artificially hold back supply in order to like help the secondary market because they're not in that market. They're not in the secondary market. Magic the Gathering market is, direct to consumer, or maybe not direct to consumer, but direct to, your local LGSs or your Amazons and stuff like this. So, yeah. But I think that's the way you could really save Magic. And I think, like, when you look at Lord of the Rings, one of the reasons Lord of the Rings did good is I think it was only like 250,000 booster boxes were going to be printed of those collector boosters. So at least you have a, number written in stone, like, okay, there will only ever be this much. And as long as the demand's there that eat up the supply, prices will always be relatively strong for a product like that. And they have seen that happen. Adian McCarthy said, Lorcana always had just a fishy smell for me, especially after the sports card guy essentially shilled it on his Instagram. 100% he shilled it. He knew exactly what he was doing, but it's also really hard to say that Lorcana's not going to do good. And I promise you, I don't own any Lorcana. Well, I can't own it yet, but I don't have any pre-orders. I don't have any like great deals with people where I'm getting Disney Lorcana cheap. I'm going to be on the market like everybody else. I don't see the longevity of that card game, though. I think it's a short-term thing, but short-term is subjective, too. If supply at release is as low as I'm expecting, as low as I've heard from people, low prices at release can be as long as 6 months to a year, depending on how fast, what is it, Ravensburger, is that the name of the company, until how fast they could just pump this stuff out onto the market until eventually they'll kill that market. But as long as demand's there at the beginning and demand's there a month or 2 or 3 or 4 months into it, I mean, prices could still stay high, but you'll start to see those prices. I don't know, like, yet. I mean, it would be too hard to speculate. Like, if a price crash for Disney or Lorcana would be a gradual price decrease, like just with more and more supply hit in the market until eventually prices bottom out, or if it's going to be like a real high run up at the beginning, like super spiked until eventually it just crashes. And then Disney Lorcana might play out like an actual bubble graph does. So like Disney, so you have like this huge spike at the beginning, then you have that relatively decent drop, but then that's what they call the bull trap. So then you'll have all the bulls of Disney Lorcana say, oh, okay, now this is my buying opportunity. So then they'll pile back in, prices will go back up until eventually supply and, demand eventually drops. So eventually then you see that crash. Disney Lorcana might play out like that. Like, that is a possibility, that how we know bubble graphs look, that might be that. So we'll see. I'm leaning towards that's probably what's going to happen. That initial spike, though, that initial release, those booster box prices at release are going to be crazy high. I just don't know, too, if the Disney Lorcana market is going to be accepting of graded cards as well. Because that would be where I would be making my play in Disney Lorcana, is opening product and grading. And I would probably grade everything. And I know that sounds crazy, because for Pokemon, you can't open a pack and grade commons, uncommons, non-holo rares, every single reverse holo. You can't really do that. You can only grade chases. But Disney Lorcana, because every character is in a way, you might have a fan of that character. Whether it's Toy Story, Buzz Lightyear, or a Lion King, Mufasa, or Simba. I mean, these commons, uncommons, they might still have some sort of premium to it as long as they're in plastic. So you're $15 into these cards, if they could be selling for $29.99 for commons, uncommons, that could get dicey though. See, that's really heavily speculative market right there. You're really going to be playing with dynamite in that sense. And dynamite, why do I use that word? Is because when you think of an old Looney Tune cartoon where they hold on to the dynamite too much and it explodes and they have the soot all over their face and they look like they've just been in that TNT explosion, that could be what happens also with Disney Lorcana if you are doing that ultimate grading play where you open up a booster box and you send every single card away. And then obviously the chase cards will be worth it to send. And Disney Lorcana is going to potentially, is it numbered cards too, or is there no numbered cards? I don't even know. I struggle sometimes, like remembering like the Disney 100 set that was released in China or Japan. Disney 100. Those had number cards versus Disney Lorcana. I don't think has. I don't even know. But then all the parallels and stuff, and that's going to be a little tricky for a lot of people in Pokemon is to like to understand parallels and stuff like this because that is a little bit more of a sports type thing. So, PokeKid said, PK, why are you still holding? I think you're talking about Sorcery. The reason why I'm holding Sorcery is because I think Rudy's going to shill this thing for me. Because I know Rudy's doing a beta Sorcery like sale. So if he wants a lot of people to go heavy into beta, there'll probably be a lot of people going back to alpha, maybe? I don't know. Probably pretty dumb to hold on to this case at this point. The fact that most recent sales were $6,000. Now, I mean, there's like, you can't look that far back and say like, okay, what if other like alpha releases of relatively newer sets done? When you go to Metazoo and you look at the alpha Kickstarter like Metazoo booster boxes, I mean those hit highs of 10,000 at one point. Do I think Sorcery booster boxes could ever hit 10,000? No, probably not. But I also never thought they'd hit 1,000 per booster box, so I'm not really sure. I've been looking at supply on the market, seeing what's available. There's been a lot of these cases going up for auction, but like for buy it nows, I think there's one buy it now, which is actually less than the most recent sale today of 5,900. There's one for a buy it now, but like after that 5,900, then it goes up to like 6,500. So I've been watching the market a little bit, and but then even before that, when you look at Flesh and Blood, and you look at like the very first set of Flesh and Blood, that alpha set, and you look at what the prices of that booster box is doing, even after all the downturns that Flesh and Blood has gone through, that booster box has still stayed relatively strong, relatively being speculative. But I'm just looking at like upside risk versus downside risk, and it's a tough one. It's not easy. So my original plan was to get a couple booster boxes. I was going to open it up and like for fun. Now I can't open this. I can't. $6,000 is dumb. You can't open this. I don't know what to do with this at this point. I'm glad I didn't sell it right at release because the pre-orders were selling for $500 a box, so that it went from 3,000 to 6,000. I don't know. Listen, I do this speculative stuff all the time, PokeKid. So I don't know why I'm holding. I'm constantly like having internal debates in my mind. I'm trying to look at the market. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'm happy I held on to it. And like, shout out to Josh Hill Card Shop. We were talking before we even got our Kickstarter product mailed to us. The what should we be doing? I think Josh ended up selling some of his position. I don't know how much of it, but we didn't know how this was going to play out when the pre-orders were selling for $500. Me and Josh were like, when all the supply hits the market, is the pre-order prices going to be the highest that these alpha booster boxes ever sold for? And then they never were, so I don't know. So Orneater said, Sorcery is one set a year. I think people are going to get bored in between. Yeah, that's a problem too. So what he's talking about is the Sorcery print runs are one per year. So there's a huge gap in between. So he's right. That could definitely be like a huge downfall of this. E4 Relk says PK can sell water to a fish. I don't know about that. Don't go all in on Sorcery. I'm telling you, I'm not a buyer at 6,000, but I'm also not a seller at 6,000. So I don't know what I am at this point. I'm too busy doing other stuff too. I think that's a problem. Is I'm so busy with other plays. I don't know. I need to rethink that. I was gonna say I'm too busy to like think about this, but those dollar amounts are getting high. The old card shop says Hidden Fates ETBs are still 150 to 170 thoughts. They were 200 plus at one point. Listen, my thoughts on Hidden Fates is there's 90 people watching this live right now. Out of those 90 people, every single one of those 90 people owns some sort of sealed Hidden Fates, whether it's a tin, whether it's an ETB. They own some, or whether it's the premium collection box. every person in this chat owns some sort of sealed Hidden Fates. So I think the problem is there's just so much of that sealed product out there. So many people out there have acquired positions in Hidden Fates already that I don't know. Hidden Fates might like run one day. And the problem is and Josh, it's the same way about anything. Hidden Fates does not run until it becomes expensive. The second Hidden Fates goes back to 250 to 300, that is when people will pile into Hidden Fates, because that for whatever reason, people in this hobby, they only ever want to buy stuff when it's expensive. They never want to buy it when it's cheap. And even Hidden Fates at 150, should I call it cheap? Maybe not, but I'm gonna. Hidden Fates at 150 is cheap. I don't ever see Hidden Fates going sub like 150 price. So for me, it's cheap. Like in the history of this hobby, in the future of this hobby, I don't think you'll ever see prices really sub 150. Sure, you might see sales here and there, like in the very near term, like between 125 and 150. Like, yes, at the time of recording this video, but a year from now, 2 years from now. But that won't be when the buying pressure is. The buying pressure is when it hits 250, 300. And then people play that FOMO. They play that catch-up game. I don't know why, but it happens. Aiden says Lorcana will be a 69G baller scalp to the moon. Yup. That is a 100% factual statement in my opinion. I think you are correct. But because it's going to be scalp to the moon, there's going to be plays to be made. And I'm just going to be doing it, like, as an outsider. I think there's a problem. Like, oh well. Old Card Shop said, the Hidden Fates Birds promo is on its way to $100 for a PSA 10. Yeah, that's, those stained glass bird promos have been interesting, especially with how many of them are printed. But people love their ETB promos. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why for that promo. Beautiful artwork, fan favorite Pokemon with the Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos. I get it, but let's see. Relk says Target is where Rattle buys his One Piece swimsuits. So all vintage, no modern says, hey PK, Evolving Skies ETB at $6 shipped, a good buy right now? Question mark. No. I wouldn't be buying Evolving Skies ETBs at $60. Honestly, my advice to you would be like, if you don't have positions in Evolving Skies ETBs, maybe I tell you to like just keep checking your local Walmarts, keep checking your local Targets. It's getting few and far between. Once in a while, Walmart still get restocks of like Evolving Skies ETBs. I know it's becoming less and less, and it's become tougher and tougher. But man, I hate answering that question. Like, why are you asking $60 Evolving Skies ETBs in July, almost August of 2023? I mean, Evolving Skies came out August of 2021. You had a lot of opportunities from then till now to acquire positions in Evolving Skies ETBs. So, if you haven't, do it. But hopefully you've already made those. Unless you're like speculating that you think prices will go up even more. I don't know. Listen, ETBs aren't fun to ship. So you add on $10 for every ETB. Add on, like your eBay fees and stuff. Like ETBs are going to get tricky, especially when your buy-in point is $20 higher than everybody else that was able to pick it up at MSRP. And then your buy-in point is $35 higher than everybody with distribution. Because people with distribution getting ETBs at $25. Joe Smo off the street at Walmart's picking up at $39.99. You're picking them up at $60. You're just so against everything. Now, it's tough. It's a good set. I don't know. You're gonna have to make that decision on your own, I think. Let's see. Fat Belly Collect says Basic needs to go live soon. Yeah, Basic's coming on the channel, but we also need a eventual Basic Trainer 24-hour live stream as well. Yeah, E4 Relk says Pokemon Go is still doing bad. It's still easy to get $2.50 a pack, average or lower in many places. Yeah. I don't like them at $2.50 a pack, but I do like them at $2 or less. Like, I haven't had many opportunities, but the opportunities I have been able to get, I've been picking up just like a handful of packs. I like not make the break. I'm not break the bank type things. I'm not saying go out and buy 10,000 Pokemon Go packs, which I doubt you're going to find a seller that has 10,000 Pokemon Go packs for sub $2, but if that option does come, like you can pick up 50 or 100, like it's nice to just tuck them away. I'm a big fan of loose packs. I know a lot of people, when it comes to especially sealed product, they really look for booster boxes or ETBs or 3-pack blisters or check lane blisters, but I don't mind owning like a handful of just loose packs. I feel like loose packs are just, they're just nice to have. See, we got Billy and Rubik's in the chat. Good to see you, Billy. Billy's been on this channel before. Let's see. Time. Everybody's saying time to end the stream now that Billy's here. Yeah. Oh no! Skip to the bottom. Skip to the bottom. Why do I do that? So John Pauline said the Zard UPC is a smart buy right now. You can get them cheap and sit on them for a couple years. They are cheap. They're a good buy. Sitting on Zard UPCs are tough. Like sitting on any products at that $80 price point is tough. You know, Zard UPCs, let's say you pick them up at between $80 to $90 today, and in 3 years from now they're $180, $200, which 2 years from now $200 possible. So you made $120 per booster box. This is the thing about Pokemon. We are so disgustingly, and I mean this, we are disgustingly rewarded with everything we're buying right now in Pokemon, that as crazy it is to say, to go from $80 to $200 for that UPC, I feel like you, with that same $80, you could probably turn it into more than $200 in the next 2 years. That's how crazy this market is. Can you rinse and repeat $80 in this hobby in 2 years? How much can you turn $80 into? It's hard to say, but I think you can do greater than 200. We are spoiled. We're in crazy land right now. You don't understand how crazy that statement is. That is a fantastic return to go from 80 to 200, and I still think you can do better doing other plays. Listen, I get it. People talk about being in a bubble, and comments like that and sentences like that from me where I think you all might be better off like flipping that $80 worth of product instead of sitting on a product going from 80 to 200 in 2 years is the most ridiculous statement ever. But that's just like that's how I feel about stuff like that. We are in dangerous territory because sentences like that could exist. And for me to say sentences like that I think you're better off using that $80 and flipping it and doing other plays than going from 80 to potentially 200 in 2 years. That is scary. We are in dangerous territory. And listen, I try to do checks and balances on myself all the time, and it's getting tough, you know. In this hobby, in the last 2 years, I haven't really taken my foot off the gas, which has been a absolute blessing for me. But by not taking your foot off the gas sometimes, like, you can be headed towards a brick wall. And for comments like that to say, I think you could do $80 better on your own than taking it from 80 to 200, like, that's foot on the gas type shit. And I feel like there's a lot of people doing that. What plays in this hobby could you have made in the last 2 years where you could have really, really failed hard on? It's crazy. We are in dangerous territory. I want you to think really hard. Okay, I could tell you, if you're the person buying Modern 10s, which if you're not new to this channel, I say one thing over and over and over again. You out there listening, you never should be buying Modern 10s. You should be grading Modern 10s. And I should start to add a caveat to that. Not only should you be grading Modern 10s, you should also be selling Modern 10s. Because, yeah, there's a lot of glaring examples where if you bought Modern 10s at release, you're underwater big time. But hopefully that's not everybody out there watching these videos. Let's see. Tom B says, TCA talks a lot about Wizard of the Coast still cracks it weekly. Tom's correct. There, he does talk about Watsi. But I'll tell you what. If you were like, all right, PK, give me a like bull argument on Watsi timeline, like a bull argument, like tell me why you think Watsi is a good investment, why you think Watsi will do strong. Just what Tom B said. The fact that TCA talks about Wizard of the Coast and still cracks it weekly, it's that second part of that sentence. The fact that he cracks it weekly. If you've been watching TCA's live streams, the amount of base set booster boxes TCA has cracked this year alone, forget about like his entire career on YouTube. Let's just talk about this year. The amount of base set boxes he's been able to crack, but more importantly, the amount of packs he's been able to sell and the sell-through rates for this stuff. If you wanted a bullish argument from me, that's all I would say is just look at that. Look at what TCA can do just by cracking base set booster boxes. The fact that the demand for these have not dried up. In fact, he's able to crack booster box and sell packs over and over and over again. Or shout out to Dan Ketchmall Collectibles. The fact that he could pick up Jungle or Fossil or base set booster boxes, crack them open, weigh out the heavies, weigh out the lights, bring them all to Collecticon, and sometimes sell out of his entire inventory to one buyer. Most of the time, those one buyers are whatnot streamers and stuff, but there's a buyer pool out there. So if you wanted my bullish argument, look no further than sealed Wizard of the Coast product. So that would be my bullish argument for Watsi, just by looking at these sales. I don't know what people want. Like, I mean, heavy base set packs, like some of them are like between $600 and $700. I've seen people get sales for, and then really, what are you chasing at that point? You may be chasing the big three. Obviously, you're chasing the Charizard, but I mean, you could whiff on a lot of cards. You know, there's still 15 hollows in base set that you're going to pull out of a pack. Obviously, the Machamp comes from the 2-player starter deck, but there's still 15 hollows, and removing those 3, so your Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, what cards are really worth it to grade? And assuming you get a high enough grade, is really worth it to cover a $700 pack. Like, yeah, I mean, if you hit 10s on like the Raichu and stuff, you're probably going to still do good, but you're pretty unlikely to do that. So, but yeah, that's that Ultimate Gambler's Premium right there. Let's see. Basic Trainer says Lorcana will outlast 1,000-piece puzzles. I like that, Basic. Pokey Lenol says, do you think first edition base set prices will ever come down again? First edition base set, come down again. What is come down again? Are we talking pre-2020 levels? No. So, alright, so I talked about Raichu. So currently, first edition Raichus are selling, and PSA 10 are selling for like right around that $8,000 mark. A little bit higher, some of these sales, so $8,000. 2018, you could pick that same first edition Raichu up for sub $700. So that's only 5 years ago. In 5 years' time, it went from sub $700 to now selling for greater than $8,000. So to answer your question, do I think first edition base seal? Oh, he said sealed prices. Oh, I didn't see the sealed. Now, as for first editions and 10s, no, they're not going to get back to 2018. First edition Raichus aren't going sub $700 again. But for sealed prices, this is a problem. With sealed prices, there's so much of a premium for that pack opener, you know? Especially when you look at Logan Paul. When Logan Paul was picking up his first edition booster boxes, he was picking up his first edition booster boxes for like $250,000 a piece. His first box break, he sold them for $11,111. That first booster box, he ended up selling all the packs for like $400,000. I think his next break, was it $15,000 he sold packs for? So that was $500,000, and then he's made like millions of dollars just opening up first edition booster boxes. So because you have people out there like Logan Paul that have this huge fan base and have this ability to sell packs at crazy, maybe he sold packs for $30,000 at that second break. It was a lot. But as long as you have people out there like him with that social influence where they could charge way more for packs, it's going to be tough to bring first edition base set boxes to pre-Logan Paul prices, because Logan Paul has really set new floors on base set booster boxes. When Logan Paul bought his first booster box, I think it was a Heritage auction, and he spent 180,000 I think he spent on that first box he bought. That 180,000 was an all-time sale for that first edition booster box, or whatever Logan Paul paid on Heritage for it. It was a lot. I don't think he knew like buyer's premium and everything too. But from that all-time high where Logan Paul did his first ever acquisition of a first edition booster box, from that price, will we ever see less than that? No. So when you ask if I think there'll be a retrace on first edition sealed boxes for base set, no. Never lower than that. Whatever Logan Paul's initial buy in that 180 or whatever, I don't think we'll see it. The market's just changed too much for shit like that. And then plus the fact that, you have about a 80% chance of pulling a Charizard in a first edition box. Because like I said, you got 36 packs. 12 of those packs are going to have hits. So in theory, you're going to get 12 out of the 15 potential hollow pulls you can get out of base set. Sometimes you could double up, but I mean, there's a chance you're going to get a Charizard. Like I said, it's about 80%. Charizard first edition PSA 10s are still selling for huge premiums right now. $200,000+. Or, shout out to Zach, Gemmint Pokemon. Zach talks about like there was a while where people were struggling to sell first edition Charizards for like $150,000+. Now they're floating right around that $200,000 mark. But the PSA 10 population was only 123, and it stayed pretty stagnant for a long time. I think the pop lowered one. I think it's at 122 now because I think they removed Logan Paul's PSA 10 off the pop report because Logan Paul graded his into a Beckett Pristine 10. But still, 122 of those cards. The big what if, the big question is, could you still have a potential pristine 10 Charizard sitting in some sealed booster box out there? And the answer is probably yes. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Now, the big what if one of those Charizards in some booster box somewheres has that potential of that black label? A black label first edition Charizard could sell $2 million easily. I think it's a very, very possible number. I think it's tough to get there, but I think some people could get there. So if you have the potential of an absolute wild long shot, like we're talking long shot of pulling a $2 million Charizard out of a first edition box right now, it's hard to get these prices low. I mean, even, was it Logic the Rapper when he bought his first edition Charizard in a PSA 10? I think he spent $120. And $120 at the time was an all-time sale. So it's just so hard to get to these pre-2020 prices. Does first edition Charizard PSA 10s drop sub 120? Because Logic's purchase was not long ago. Less than 3 years ago. It's tough. I mean, the market for some of this stuff has just gone so stupid and parabolic that some of these prices are tough to get to. It's the same way as watching full art, even for super modern stuff like 2016 timeline or 2018 timeline, or we'll say for 2016 timeline, full art Mario Pikachus. You got the 4 different Mario and Luigi's. You got the full art Mario, the half art Mario, the full art Luigi, the half art Luigi. A full play set of that selling for $13,000. The full play set. So now you fast forward a couple years to 2019 and you talk about the Scream cards. A full play set of the Screams for $15,000. Even for modern cards. What does it take to pull the full art Mario, Luigi, and the half arts? What does it take to pull those back to pre-2020 prices? And it's just so hard to get there for some of this stuff. The Mario, I mean, It's tough. It's so much of this stuff. It's just, yeah. Fat Belly Collect says, Lorcana is a stupid name, and for that reason, it will die in 3 years. It is a stupid name. Uh, Brent says, PK, we need a guest on Friday nights. Rattles or CTR? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I would love to get both those guys back on. Yeah, so that's my good set. He just picked up an Evolving Skies ETB at Walmart for $40. So yeah, like that would be my recommendation for you, but I understand how tough it can be right now. Pokey Snipe says the Walmart buys are decent for him, especially since he came in around Crown Zenith release. Wow. Pokey Snipes, you came in to this hobby during Crown Zenith? And you've made it to this channel? No way. That's not possible. You've been around. I've seen your name way before that. That's not possible. Skip to the bottom. Sweet. Let's see. Oh my god, I'm the worst. I don't. So if you guys don't understand YouTube, when you're scrolling, sometimes it just jumps to the bottom on the chat. So then you scroll up and you got to look for like where you were. Let's see. Okay, I think I found the spot. Fat Belly Collect says, I'd be interested in the tune into your live tomorrow at Basic Trainer, yeah. Basic Trainer, we're waiting for that 24-hour live stream. Jesus Gutierrez says, Lorcana is going to the moon at release, and it's a real gamble long-term. Yeah, real gamble long-term being the key word right there. This is a thing, too. We live in what I believe is going to happen with Lorcana. So what I think is going to happen with Lorcana is what I mentioned earlier. At release, it's going to be relatively scarce, and they're just going to keep printing it until eventually they kill the price. That's what I think. That's the play I'm doing is based off of, like, that thought process. There is a scenario in which they don't do that, and Disney Lorcana gets short printed, and they just move on to another set right away, and then there's still a ton of demand into Disney Lorcana, but because they've already moved on to the next set, they're not going to go back and print, like, call it the base set, which I find that to be very unlikely, but if that scenario plays out, then Disney Lorcana booster boxes are thousands. I'm saying it, thousands. Like, if they short printed Disney Lorcana enough with the amount of demand that's already existing, thousands. Easy. Multiple $1,000 booster boxes. But I just find that unlikely. And all my plays are going to be with that thought process in mind. But I promise you, there does exist in the multiverse a world in which Disney Lorcana gets underprinted and short printed, and they just move on to whatever the next set is. That would be, I don't think that's likely, but that would be ridiculous. Let's see. So Fresh Tat says, Hidden Fates bulk I'm holding on to. You know, if you look at the non-holo Pikachu from Hidden Fates and you look at it in a PSA 10, it still sells for like $25. So if you're a decent pre-grader, I mean you have a high likelihood of getting a 10, that's a 10-15 cent card. Spend $15 to grade it and you could sell it for between $25 and $30 all day. Like, that's a play. You just have to be really good at grading, because if you're really bad at grading and you hit a 9 or you do the cardinal sin of missing a dent or something, get a PSA 6, forget about it. Like, you're done. But if you have a huge pile of Hidden Fates bulk, there are some commons that are worth it to be graded. David Caston said, PK, do you have any submissions out right now? I have like 8 submissions out right now. So I have a lot. And the problem is I'm starting to like get a little bit of weird feelings towards Charlotte, because all my submissions that I sent weren't really in preparation of like cards that I want to sell at Charlotte Collecticon. And because Charlotte Collecticon's in September, I'm just so worried that like my inventory for what I want to sell at Charlotte, by the time it gets there, it's going to be so like low. Now, there's going to be a lot of cards that I can't wait to bring the Charlotte Collecticon, and a lot of those cards are going to be the super bulky, like, I'm going to have like a $20 box, I'm going to have a $25 box, because what I want to do at Charlotte Collecticon is all the cards that I can't sell on eBay. And what I mean by that is a card that maybe in person it's worth it to sell for $20, because you sell it for $20, you get $20. Where a $20 card on eBay, you sell it for $19.99 with free shipping, so you're going to sell it for $20. You're going to pay the $4 for first class, or I guess it's UPS ground now. You're going to spend the $4 to ship that card, and you're going to, get hit with the eBay fees. It's not worth it. $20 card in person, going to be worth it. So I'm hoping I move through like all that inventory, and everybody out there has it. I don't have like a $25 box, $20 box. Everybody out there has their, field grade and plays. They exist. Especially if you've been trying to do grade and plays like full art trainer cards, or like these character rare subset cards. I've had a lot of I was going to say 8s. I haven't had a lot of 8s, but I have like the occasional 8 and a handful of 9s I got for some of these cards. You can't really sell those cards on eBay. Sure, the 10s you can sell because, you list them for $39.99 or $49.99 or $59.99, $69.99, depending on whatever the character is, depending on how good that character rare subset card is. You can sell the 10s all day. That's no problem. It's those 9s, it's the 8s. It's just impossible to move. So those are the cards I'm hoping to move in person. But I also don't want to go to Charlotte Collecticon, pay the price for two tables plus 4 cases, and just sit there, selling $20 slabs. Like, that's not what I want to do. So I'm getting a little nervous about my submissions, because something's going on right now with PSA where submissions are just taking forever to get entered into the system. So, that stage 4 is grading, so stage 3 is research and ID. There was a while that cards were making their way back to us in not in a month, 30 days, not 30 business days, just straight up 30 days. And I had a couple submissions even as recently as May. Submit them in May, and I was getting them back by the end of June. So 30 days. But now my cards are sitting in research and development for the same amount of time as I was getting submissions back. And when Nat Turner was on this channel, and listen, if you guys have made it this long in this live and you haven't watched that Nat Turner interview, I highly recommend it. In the description of this video, it's the very first link. You could search my channel, type in, Nat Turner interview. But he talks about it in that interview that they're sending cards from California to New Jersey. So I don't know how much that's adding on to it. And I don't really have a good enough understanding of what the New Jersey's infrastructure at PSA looks like. Are they just being overwhelmed by, just shipping and receiving and putting cards in? So, but yeah, David, I have a lot of submissions out right now, and I even have some submissions out to some different consigners too that will submit cards for you. I also have one submission that they've already received and another submission that I shipped out in the mail today. So they'll probably be receiving that on Tuesday. So yeah, I'm nervous. I'm not going to get those cards back by September. Whatever. What are you going to do? So Ernie said, PK, did you ever open up your Marnie box? That thing is massive. I haven't opened it, but yeah, they are massive. They take up so much space. Same thing with the Lily boxes too. I would love to throw either the Marnie collection box up there, the Chinese collection box. I love to throw the Lily collection box up there and just put it on the shelf. They're just too big. They are massive. But that Marnie collection box, I will tell you, it is a premium product. We do not get anything close to those Marnie boxes for English. Not even. I mean, we get excited when we get the Flareon Jolteon Vaporeon premium collection box or the Arceus figure collection boxes, because all those collection boxes had a texture feel to the cardboard. We get excited about that. When you look at these Marnie boxes from China and you look at the quality, you're just oh yeah, night and day. Not even close. Let's see. Clifton said, hell yeah, grade Modern 10s all day. Yep. So E4 Relk says, fresh out of the packs, modern cards typically grade 9 or higher. Note the typical part, at least from experience. Yeah, I mean, especially like some of the higher end cards. You look at the Moonbryon, 80% plus gem mint 10 rate, but I mean, everybody gets hit with those random 9s once in a while too. So, but yeah, modern cards for the most part. I don't like to do blanket statements either because, like, there's some like Sword and shit. I mean, Charizard UPCs. They don't all. They're not 90% out of the box PSA 10s, you know. So, and that's still technically a modern card. But I know what you're talking about. You're right. For most part, 9s or 10s for modern, definitely. So Shining Puppet says, have you thought about having your own solo podcast, PK, or your own Discord? So solo podcast, no, I don't feel like there's a need for a solo podcast. I do enough of these lives that already kind of exist as a solo podcast. So I don't feel a need for that. Own Discord, no. I think to have a Discord, it just takes too much time to moderate a Discord to, be actively engaged in it. The closest thing I have to a Discord is Rattle's Discord. I'm actively engaged in that. Or the Professor Oak Discord. I'm engaged in that. But yeah, I'm not going to ever have my own. But if you guys are looking for a Discord, I recommend you join that Rattle Discord. And it's worth it. Especially like happy hour chats and stuff. If you want to interact with the community and not just be watching videos, if you want to engage, if you want to open packs with people, like hop into the happy hour chat. It usually goes on for hours. You don't have to hop in and stay to the end. You could hop in and out whenever you want. And say you get a ETB of whatever, Obsidian Flames, or you get a booster box of Obsidian Flames, and you don't want to just open those packs by yourself. You want to open them with 10, 15 other people who are going to be super excited when you pull that big hit. Like, join that. This community is great, man. Like, it really is. So Open Mango said, do you think we are in a similar era after the initial hype of Pokemon after base set? Example, the old EX era. No, we are not. So when you think about base set, so by Expedition, Expedition came out early. So was it January 2002 or January, February 2002? Expedition came out. So by the time Expedition was released, base set booster boxes were already on fire sales for like $39.95 shipped. Base set booster boxes at release MSRP'd for like $119.99, or they were like $2.99 a pack. And then there was a ton of demand. They printed the shit out of base set, Jungle, Fossil. There was a ton of demand for all these sets. But by the time you got to Expedition, which was literally just 3 years later, booster box prices had already went down to $40 a booster box. So are we in that era? No. Because when you look at, okay, what was 3 years ago from today, that brings you to 2020. We're not even close to what happened with the previous boom and bust. I think it's just the people in the hobby too. Like, you can make comparisons to that original 99 boom. Like, there's definitely things you can make comparisons to, but overall, no, everything is playing out so drastically different. Let's see. All right. I made it, though. Made it to the bottom of the chat. I went for an hour and 23 minutes. I'm not very good at doing 30-minute lives, am I? No, I'm sorry, guys. But listen, as always, appreciate every single one of you guys. Do me one quick favor before you turn off this video. Just hit that like button. That's all I ask. I don't ask for much. Hit the like button. And if you're new to this channel and you just found me for the first time ever, listen, hit that subscribe button. I do a lot of these type of videos. I'm having guests on all the time. We're going to have Basic Trainer on the chat pretty soon. Basic Trainer's been on this channel almost more than anybody else. So it's going to be fun. If you guys want to know when I'm going live, hit that bell notification. But as always, appreciate every single one of you guys. If it wasn't for you, I would not be making these videos. And as always, I'll catch you on the next video.